Good afternoon and welcome to Tall Oak Homestead. Today in the garage, we're going to be working on making a fruit and vegetable stand that I've made a couple of these before and we have them in the kitchen. Although this time we're going to make it just a little bit wider. I've found that the one in the kitchen now, it's a little crowded. So I think if it was just maybe a couple of inches wider, it would be more accommodating to the fruits and vegetables that we currently have in it. So what we're going to be using today is some 1x4 knotty pine. We like the knotty pine for the character it gives the wood once it's finished, as opposed to the regular select pine, which doesn't seem to have as many knots in it. So the first thing we're going to do is start measuring out our wood. And this one here is currently 12 inches on the inside diameter. And this is 3/4 inch wood. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to extend it out to 15 inches this time instead of 12. And that will give us a little bit more room for the fruit and vegetables to sit in. Okay, so we're ready to start cutting our wood. So I always like to start with a fresh cut on the end because sometimes when you get the wood from the lumber store, it's a little beaten up and rough and generally tends to have stickers and things on the end. So we're going to make a first cut to get a fresh cut. Okay, that's perfect. So now we want our back to be 15 inches and our sides to be 10. So we'll start with our two back lengths. So we'll mark that as 15 inches. And we'll give that a cut. Okay, and there's one. Two. So there's our two backs that we have here. So now we're going to cut 4 of the 10-inch. All right, so we have cut all of the 4 side pieces. Now I need to cut this angle here, which is just a 45, so that we can have better access to the front. Otherwise, it would be the same size as that, and we don't want that. So I'll go ahead and measure these and get them cut with a 45-degree angle. So what we'll do, as these are 3.5, we'll measure up 1 inch and 3/4, which is right about there. And then we'll set our square on that angle. And that's what we'll cut off using the miter saw. So we'll move over here. Set our angle to 45. And cut off the extra. So I'll go ahead and do the other 3, and we'll be back in a few minutes. All right, so now we've got our 4 pieces cut out for our sides. So now we have our back and our sides. Now all we need is the front piece here, which I'm going to have to use the table saw. And we'll set that to 1.5 inches. And we'll use some of the offcut here to make these 2 pieces. So let me get the table saw set up and we'll be back. All right, so we're going to set up our table saw. We'll raise our blade so that it's just above the piece of wood we're cutting. And we'll set our fence at 1.75 inches. Where are we? Right about there. I'll just do a quick measurement just to make sure. 1.75 inches. And we're all set. Good to go. Okay, so this is going to get a little bit noisy here. Well, I got the vacuum going to suck all the dust and the table saw. But just bear with me for a couple of minutes and we'll get these cut. Okay, here we go. So we'll measure our two front pieces. Well, look, we got a nice cut on this end, so we'll start with this end. We need 15 inches, the same as the back piece. There's one. That's a nice cut on that end. And 15 inches on this piece here. Square them off. And we'll bring them over to the saw and cut them down to size. We save my little scraps. You never know when they will come in handy. So there's a 15 right there. So cut here. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces for the main frame put together. So we have a back, we have the sides, and we have one of the front pieces right here. So now we'll start assembling these and get them all glued together. So let me get set up with my brad nailer and the glue, and we'll get things started. Okay. All right, so now we'll start with our assembly of the pieces. We got our glue. We'll glue up one piece here. And I'm using 1.25 inch brad nails for the main frame. Always make sure you keep your fingers out of the way. That brings that together. That's good. Now we'll do the other side. And now the front. So the front, you kind of have to get both sides at the same time. So a little bit of glue on each side. Kind of squeeze this in here. Like that. Turn around. Okay, blue is good. So that is the main frame of what we're going to be building. So let me go ahead and make the other one, and then we'll continue on with making the inside with the support brackets and the slats. So let's continue on. Okay, now we have our two main structures all built, and they all sit together nicely. So now we need to make the two inside supports so that when we cut the strips for the slats, that we got something to nail into. So we'll go ahead and measure our piece of wood and cut out those 4 support brackets that we need. So let's bring our wood over. So once again, they're going to be 15 inches. So we'll need to cut our piece of wood to 15 inches. This one's already got a bit of a cut in it, so we'll trim it down. And we're going to need 4 pieces that are 3/4 of an inch in diameter. So we'll measure out 15 inches and cut that out. And then we'll have to run it through the table saw to cut it down to the size that we need. Okay. All right, so there's our piece of wood that we need for 15 inches, which will fit in between there. May have to skim it down just a little bit. But now we'll set the table saw to 3/4 of an inch and run this through to create our little support brackets. Move my nail gun out of the way. 3/4 of an inch. It's right about there. Tape measure just to make sure. That looks too big, doesn't it? That's not 3/4 of an inch. That's 1 inch and 3/4. 3/4 of an inch. It's right there. Perfect. Okay. So we'll run this through the table saw and cut out our pieces. All right, now we have our 4 pieces. We'll go ahead and just make sure that they fit. Oh, looks like I got to cut them down just a little bit too long. So let me just nip a slice off of those ends. Let's move that out of the way. There we go. Those fit in there nicely now. So now in order to mount these in here, I have to change the brad nails that I'm using in my brad nail gun. Actually, no, that's for the slats. I need to change it. So I can still use the 1¼ inch nails here. So we'll get the brad nailer back. And we'll start gluing these into place first. We'll do these one at a time. So we'll put a bead of glue on the inside here. And mount these in here like that. Then we'll take our brad nailer and just run in a couple of nails. Now we'll hold that in place. So we'll do the same on the front. And just like that, that gives us our support mount for the slats, which we're going to put into it. So let me go ahead and finish the other one, and we'll be right back. In this section of the video, we're cutting out our slats for the bottom of our structures. We have set the fence to 3/16 of an inch because that's how thick our pieces are going to be, and we need to cut them at 8½ inches long, and they'll be about 3/4 of an inch wide. So we're going to run them through the table saw and cut them to the desired width we need, and then we'll get started with nailing them into the wood frames. Okay, now we've got our 4 pieces cut. So now we need to cut them down to size to fit inside of here. So let's do a quick measure. So we're about 8½ inches. So what we'll do, we'll measure the top here, 8½. And we'll try and keep them stacked nicely. There we go. Right. So let's just test fit those a little bit. Make sure. Oh, I'm just a bit too big, I think. You got to cut them down just a little bit more. All right, now we have our pieces cut down. You can see they fit in there nicely. Just like that. So usually what I'll do is I'll put the first one in like that. Then we use one as a spacer and then continue on like that all the way across until I get all of them in place. So I'll continue on and cut the rest of these, and then we'll get them all glued and nailed into place. Okay, we have all of our slats cut, and now we need to change our nails in our nail gun. these are inch and a quarters. I need to put in 3/4 of an inch, otherwise those are going to be too long and will stick out the bottom. So we'll reload here. We'll put this out of the way. And we'll go ahead and get started with our nailing. So I like to leave a little bit of a gap at the end first. So we'll place one just on its edge like that. And now we'll take a little bit of glue on each one of these. Place it inside. And then we'll put a nail on one side and on the other side. Now we'll pop this guy out of here. So now we got a nice little gap there. And from here on in, we'll use this one as a spacer. And we'll continue to glue and nail the rest of the pieces into place. All right, so we'll continue on installing our slats. This one's a little tight. You have to snip that one down a little bit. There we go. So we have finished installing our slats into each of the frames, and Carrie was able to help me out with that as she's holding the camera today, so you don't see her in the shot. So now we need to create these brackets here that give us our height. Now, Carrie's mentioned to me that the one we have here and the one that's in the kitchen, she's finding it a little bit too tall. So we're going to use these and we're going to make it a little bit shorter. So we've got a 3/16 cutoff here that we're going to put on the ground. And we're going to find our center and we're going to place our pieces here to create our brackets, support brackets. So let me just grab the screws I'm going to need. I'm going to need some 1.25 inch number 6 wood screws, and we'll get set up and we'll get the holes drilled and get these support brackets in place. Okay, so we're ready to install our vertical support brackets. So first of all, we need to find our center, so 10 inches, so 5 right there. So we're going to put these together just briefly, and then once we've got it all set, I'm going to take it all apart and sand it, because once it's all together, it's very difficult to sand, but in pieces, it's much easier. And once it's sanded, we'll put it all together properly, and then we'll get a coat of stain on it and show you the finished product. But for now, let's just work on getting these uprights together. So 1.5 inches, so I need 3/4 of an inch. It's right there. It's going to be our center. I'm just going to grab a quick clamp here. This will help us keep our wood from moving around too much. Now I'm going to use this as a spacer on the bottom, just like this, so that I got a little bit of a gap there. Oh, maybe I got to go this way. So now we should be straight, like that. And I'll drill 2 countersunk holes in the bottom here. And one here. And we'll put in our number 6 screws. There we are. Like I said, this is just temporary until we get it all put together, and then we'll take it all apart and sand everything. So I'll go ahead and do the other side, and we'll be right back. So we've mounted this is our base, and we got our upright supports screwed into place. So now in order to mount the top, we're going to have to turn it over and slide this over the top like that, and put our little spacers under each side and line up our marks so that we are nice and straight. Okay, that's looking really good. Oops, shoot, I moved. Let me just check that one more time because it moved. There we go. Thank you, helper. All right, we'll put in our screws. Okay, that's one side done. And then we'll flip it around. Got our spacer once again. Line up our marks in there. Make sure we're level. Okay. And there we are. So what we'll do from here is, now that we've got it all assembled and together, we'll take it apart, take the sides off, get everything sanded, and we'll be back to show you the finished product once I have a clear coat of stain on it. So stay tuned. Okay, so we got some 220 grit sandpaper on here. So we're not trying to sand too much off, but just make it nice and smooth. So let's get started and make it look pretty. Once I'm finished with the orbital sander, I'll use one of these 220 grit sponges. It's a little easier on the hand, and you can get some nice soft corners. The orbital sander works well to get rid of most of the edge, but this nice soft sponge sander just finishes it off nicely. Okay, so that's pretty well sanded for now. We'll do the same thing with the other one, and then we'll use the air compressor to clean off all the dust, and then it'll be ready for final assembly and to be clear coated to a finished product. So stay tuned. We are back. Everything has been sanded, and I've used the compressor to clean off any excess sawdust that there may be around. So now we'll get into final assembly. So we'll need some glue. And we just need to glue, let's do the bottom first. This little space on the bottom. We'll use our spacer once again, which will help us locate our holes. Uh-oh. Cut that piece out. Okay, we'll spin it around. Do the other one. I marked them so that I would know which was the top and which was the bottom. Let's line them up. There we go. Tighten them up a bit more. Clean up any excess glue. I just noticed this side's still sticking out a little bit. There we go. Just tighten that up. And now we'll go and do the top. So we'll have to do this in the reverse way. We'll put glue on here this time. And glue on here. I'll try and slide this over the top. Okay. Something flew over there. And we'll do the other side. Screws should find their holes right there. Wipe off the excess glue. A little bit. Okay, so there is our final product. We'll just let the glue finish setting up, and then we'll start to get it stained, and we'll show you the finished product. So stay tuned. Welcome back. As you can see, we have completed the vegetable and fruit stacker. It is now wider and a little bit shorter than the original one that we made. And we think this will work much better on the counter and be able to accommodate more fruit and more vegetables as well. So that concludes this episode of Tall Oak Homestead in the Garage. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this episode, and like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you next time with a new project and some new ideas. Talk to you then.